The main goal of a great Winston player is to be as annoying as possible to the enemy team. You want to find the squishy targets and shut them down. This Game Leap guide is your quickest way to learn all that you need to know about diving the enemy backline. And the best part is that you can apply it to your own games. My name's ChronoDota. I'm a former pro player with a major LAN tournament win under my belt, but recently I've been focusing on creating content so that I can help others achieve their goals. I've mastered Winston and I cannot wait to help you solve more of your games. So let's get started.
Tired of losing game after game? Game Leap is the proven way to help you unlock your true potential as a gamer. You will find hundreds of in-depth courses created by some of the highest rated players in the world. Go check it out in the link below and you'll love it.
Before looking at the footage, I have 4 quick tips that you can use to consistently get more value out of your dives. Number 1, use your bubble to dodge important CC abilities like McCree Flashbang, Brig Bash, Anna Sleep, and Roadhog Hook. Often it's best to use bubble mid-air before landing if you're playing against one of these heroes. It might feel strange, but bubbling mid-air will let you block their most powerful ability if you time it correctly. When the bubble goes down, you want to play it around the edge of the bubble so that you can weave in and out to avoid damage. Number 2, it's best to dive when you know that the enemy backline isn't going to get much help. For example, you might want to wait for the enemy D.Va to use her boosters before you engage, so that she can't fly back to actually help her team. Without D.Va chunking rockets into your back, you're much more likely to survive the dive and possibly get a kill. If the enemy has Orisa and Roadhog, then you can actually wait for them to get further from the backline and then set up the dive. Number 3, the best way to dive the backline is by setting up above or behind the enemy team. You wait until they walk past you, and then you can drop onto their backline for free. Engaging the backline without committing your movement ability is huge. Usually the scary part about diving is knowing that you're going to be fully committed. You have no escape. You should always engage like this whenever possible. It means that you can disengage whenever you're in danger. Lastly, when you dive, you don't always have to get kills. Sometimes just distracting the enemy backline is enough for your team to win the fight. Think about it. If you zone both healers with your dive, then nobody on their team is getting healed anymore. Diving for kills is an important skill to have, but diving to zone the enemy backline is equally as important. The first thing to consider is your team comp. This is going to tell you how much support you're going to be getting in the dives. In this case, we have a Tracer and Genji, which are both really good DPS picks for diving. D.Va with her defense matrix is going to let me be greedier with my dives because she can block a lot of the incoming damage. Also, the Anna pick is going to let me be more aggressive because I can get a lot of strong heals when I go in, given that I play in her line of sight, of course. On the rollout, I take this top middle high ground because it gives me a lot of options. If they go anywhere on the point, I can drop on them for free, and no matter where they go, I'm in a central position where I can rotate anywhere. And again, because we are playing this sort of dive-centric composition, right now what I'm doing is I'm doing a little bit of peeking here to try to find a good dive target. We see that Anna's playing close in main, so I immediately call for a dive. When you're diving, you want to go for the squishy targets. If they happen to be very far forward, like Anna in this case, then don't hesitate to pull the trigger. So here we set up the dive. And that's good. Again, this video is about diving the backline, but in this case, the Anna was playing in the front line. So you have to think about it more in terms of diving the squishy targets instead of the backline. So basically you want to, like I said before, get the squishy targets, right? That'd be like your Lucio, your Anna, your Bridget, characters like that. Yeah, right here we finished the dive on the Anna. So right now we're going to be backing up and regrouping. So here I jump back so that I can get healed up and regain my cooldowns. And now we just want to rinse and repeat. We want to dive with our cooldowns, back up, and regain those cooldowns, and then we go in again. With dive compositions, you want to be as explosive as possible. Here I go for a dive on Hanzo in main, because he's pretty split from the rest of his team. I could have dove the tanks on point, but like I said, you always want to focus the squishy targets. So yeah, I try to go for Hanzo. I drop the bubble early because I predicted he was going to try to headshot me in the midair. I push forward and then I realize that I cannot kill him. I know Lucio is coming to peel the Hanzo and my bubble is going to break soon. So even though I don't get the kill, I'm distracting both Lucio and Hanzo, meaning that right now in this moment, my team has an advantageous 5 versus 4 on the objective. And then here I get nanoed, so I go back in. Now this was an interesting play. It also had to do with diving for distraction. I know that the enemy used Dragon Blade to engage my team, so I primal to distract the other 5 members of my team. This effectively gives my team a 5 versus 1, where they're more likely to be able to deal with the Nanoblading Genji. So that's why I go for this primal here. Right now my goal is just to distract. So even though I do my best to distract here, the Genji ends up going down to very low HP and he just kills 4 people, practically my whole team. So even though this play doesn't work out for me, this is a good play in principle. The problem is that Genji just barely survived. So overall this is still a good play, I would definitely do it again. Because again, I'm zoning 5 people. It's literally a 5 versus 1 around the objective. So if Ana would have landed asleep, if Lucia would have landed a boop, anything like that, then that Genji would be dead and then I'd come back and it'd be a 6 versus 5. In this dive, our Ana called that someone's sleeping, so we set up a dive on the left side. One important thing to note here is notice how I wait for my Tracer to get into position before the dive. The Tracer was already in position in his back calls here. Whenever you're setting up a dive with these Tracer, Genji kind of characters, these flankers, usually you want to have them set up on a flank and then you dive in from the other angle. Going for tanks isn't ideal, but this dive does open up map control for us. Now we have as much space on the point as they do. For now we're going to wait to get our cooldowns back and then we go again, just like we did the dive prior. Remember, you want to rinse and repeat. So at this point, I have 5 seconds left on my bubble and I'm calling to my team, I have bubble in 5. And basically I'm just waiting to get my cooldowns again and then we go. Remember, when you're playing dive, you want to hide, and then when you engage, you want to engage hard. The principle is that you just want to be as explosive as possible. When I finally get my bubble cooldown back, I called to dive them in main. Notice how I bubbled early. I really didn't want McCree to flashbang me before my bubble comes out, because if he does, there's actually a very high chance that I just die here. When you win a teamfight, you want to take that opportunity to actually take positioning from the enemy. Like we talked about before, ideally you want to get set up above and behind the enemy team. So this right here is one of the tips that I talked about in the beginning of the video. I'm putting myself in a position where I don't have to use my leap cooldown to get onto their backline. I know that they're going to come through this choke, so I'm just waiting until they push through. Again, I use bubble very shortly after shrugging myself because I know that McCree is going to use flashbang the moment that he sees me. Then here you're going to see me go for the engage. And I don't know if you actually saw that, but my bubble did completely negate the flashbang. Again, this is so good because I'm getting so much value. I'm zapping like 4 or 5 people, and it didn't really cost me anything. And whenever I feel like I'm in danger, I can just do a 180 and then use my shift to get out, completely scot-free. And then we can take another fight on point. Setting up like this is just incredibly good. It gives you so much value. And what I do here is I actually jump straight up so that I give them an opportunity to push through choke. Because remember, you want to drop on their backline. You don't really want to be focusing tanks. So right now, this basically gives them opportunity to walk up, and then when they do walk up, I can drop on them. And at this point, when D.Va committed her shift on me, my main goal was to boop the D.Va into my team so we can get her for a free kill. But then shortly after, I heard the enemy Genji Blade. So when the enemy uses Genji Blade, I have 2 options. I could go peel the Genji Blade, where I can distract the enemy backline so that he gets no support. And because my Lucio uses sound barrier right here, I actually just decide to zone the backline, because I know that Nanoblade is probably not going to kill through that beat. So here, my entire job is just to distract him while my team kills the Blading Genji. So here, initially, my goal was to distract, but here I see that Ana is actually left alone and she has no nade. So I know that I can actually kill this Ana if I focus her. So here, my priority shifted. It started off initially by zoning, and based off of opportunities that I saw in the game, I can now identify that I can actually go for a kill on this Ana with my Primal Rage. And because of that, I commit even deeper. I messed up a little bit my juggles on the Ana, but I do manage to get the kill though. Now this really shows the power of being annoying in the backline. They only have a few seconds to get onto the point. It's 97% up here. But both Lucio and D.Va come all the way back to peel me from their spawn. And now just think about that for a moment. I zoned 4 people for a few seconds at the very beginning of the fight, and then I killed Ana, and even now I'm still distracting 2 people from the fight. Winston is just so incredibly strong once you learn how to utilize his kit and to dive properly. On this map, we're also running the same composition as before, so the same idea of diving the backline applies here. I roll out in the middle here, and I play right here so that I can scout for a squishy target to dive. I see Lucio, but I know that he's usually too fast to set up an opening dive on, especially when he's in the middle of his team, like he is now. When you're setting up dives, don't be afraid to patiently wait for the right opportunity. I'm not sitting in the open because I don't want to take any damage pre-dive, but I'm still peeking a little bit so that I can gain some information. And this is the frame. I see their Ana making the cross to point, so I immediately go for the dive. And this is basically picture perfect dive timing. So go for the Ana. We do end up killing the Ana, which is great, but I also die for it. And the reason I died here is because our Ana was actually not in position to heal me, and that's something that I could have fixed by making sure that I'm playing in her line of sight. Because our Ana is actually playing right here. So what I could have done is instead of diving and then kiting towards point, I could have dove and then kited towards this health pack room. So I actually could have lived if I played in line of sight of my Ana. But overall that dive timing was still really good. Now this is where we're going to be trying to set up a dive. So right now, the enemy team has a whole bunch of space. So I go for a jump on the high ground. The enemy has basically all of the map control right now, which means that their backline is able to play in a very safe position. What jumping on the high ground here does, is it forces the enemies to clear me, giving my team a chance to take space. And in the last map we talked about making an early dive to set up an even better dive in the future. And this is just one of those situations. So if you pause here, you can see that I'm zoning or distracting the Lucio, the D.Va, the Winston, and the Ana because I ended up shooting up here. This just goes to show you how incredibly valuable jumping for space can be. And after distracting them, I jump all the way back to regain my cooldowns and regain my HP. Basically, we just want to regain all of our cooldowns here so we can set up a proper dive. And again, now that I got my bubble cooldown up just right now this is when we're going to be looking for the hard dive. And it's actually important that you don't blindly dive. There really is no purpose of diving if you don't know what you want to accomplish. With our team comp, I know that we want to focus squishy targets, so I patiently wait until I find the opportunity. I know that Lucio and Ana are playing together in their halls, so that is when I call the dive. But I didn't just instantly turn the corner and dive. I walked up, I scouted where they are, I call it to my team, and then I dive. And that's exactly what you're going to see right here. I go on the backline and I get nano boosted. Here we see that our Ana lands a huge anti-nade onto their backline, so I instantly pop my Primal Rage and just try to go in and get one of these kills. Try to go for the Ana, but she sleeps me. So right now in this fight, I'm trying to maximize my cleave, but my main job right now is to keep focusing those squishy targets. So right now there's a Lucio at about half HP, and a D.Va about half HP. So it's my job to shoot the Lucio. Because Monkey actually does a lot of damage to Lucio because you actually cannot miss your laser, right? But let's say you're playing Soldier or Kree, then it might take you longer to kill a Lucio than a D.Va just because Lucio is a lot more evasive, and he just has a smaller hitbox in general. And yeah, the rest of this fight here is just completely us cleaning up the team fight. And I turned around for Genji here because I just saw that he used his shift ability, his dash. And Winston is really good against Genji, for a similar reason as to why Monkey is good against Lucio. Because a Genji is actually really hard to hit. Tracking a Genji that's in the air doing the double jump can be really hard. But when you're playing Monkey, there's basically no way to miss. I take the opportunity and I try to dive the Genji. But unfortunately, I actually don't pay enough attention to my HP. I thought I was much healthier here than I really was. So I end up going down. Again, I'm focusing the squishy targets on the point. Here I focus Lucio to force him out of the fight. But then suddenly, I'm going to see our Ana land a great anti-nade in their main. Right here. I don't know if you saw that, but our Ana landed a 1 or 2 anti-nade. Diving can be complicated, but there are certain things to look for called triggers, which give you a clear condition to engage. Triggers could be something like a Pharah landing a direct rocket, it could be an enemy Ana getting discorded, it could be an enemy wasting their shift, etc, etc. And in this case, when the enemy gets anti-naded, this is a clear win condition for us to commit, as they have no way to heal up anymore. I quickly identify this opportunity, and I change my focus onto the purpled baby D.Va. Even though I probably could have killed Lucio, if I kept focusing him. And that's huge, I managed to kill baby D.Va just before she gets back into her mech, and this right here is definitely a fight win. And now this is just going to be basic cleanup. So like we talked about before, ideally you want to be setting up in a position where you can zap the enemy without having to commit your shift ability. And this is one of those. If the enemy walks through choke point, I can just zap them at choke, and then if I get low HP, I can always jump back to the point. And if we get somebody low or we land an anti-grenade, for example, then I can hard commit into them. That's why I like trying to hold here first. Here, I jump up to distract the enemy as enemy Winston goes on the high ground. And think about it logically for a moment. I know that the backline is going to push forward through the choke shortly because their tanks are engaging. And when I say the choke point, I mean this choke point and this choke point here, because they're going to have to walk up to help their team. And basically jumping up like this lets me land right on top of them. This play also serves as a bait. If the diva is shooting me, then she's not peeling for a Winston that's diving our backline. On top of that, I have no risk of dying because the landing damage will give me my primal rage, which is basically a get out of jail free card. Overall, there's actually no way that this play can go wrong. And in this situation, when I see that the diva uses shift into me, I know that I can dive their backline. And remember when we talked about triggers? Diva wasting her boosters is one of the big triggers, and this is my trigger to actually go in and engage the backline right here, because I know that the diva can't be peeling for a backline anymore. So I try to go for the Ana. And right now I'm wreaking a ton of havoc into their backline. I'm zoning at least 3 players and threatening to kill their Ana. And initially I tried to go for the Ana, but I heard my team call out that the Lucio is 1 HP in hulls, so I quickly turn around to kill Lucio. And again, this kill on Lucio is only possible because my teammates actually called it out for me, and I just reacted quickly. And if you look at my HP here, I'm only at 252 HP. Knowing when to disengage with Primal is also super important. I very easily could have just fed here if I didn't jump out instantly after killing Lucio. Because if I didn't jump right now, I would get punched by the Doomfist here. Now this dive into the hulls is really important to understand. Previously in the map, I said that diving blindly is a bad idea. And in this case, I actually don't know where the enemy backline is. I just know that the bulk of their team is playing here in hulls. And the reason I go for this leap is because we called to play for a nano blade. And when you dive, you want to play for your win condition. The thing that's actually going to win you the team fight. In neutral fights, like the opening fights for example, it's going to be a Winston diving the enemy backline, and then either getting a kill or just being a major distraction. In this case though, our win condition is the nano blade. My job goes from diving the backline to tanking damage and cooldowns from the enemy so that our Genji can go wild with his ultimate. So I jump in aggressively, trying to block the Ana sleep and Lucio boops. Our Genji still does end up going down though because he was antied and the enemy used sound barrier. And now this fight is just going to devolve from here. I want to be going for squishy targets, but while I'm trying to find them, I just zap the Winston. Usually you shouldn't be shooting the tanks, but if you don't have anything better to do, then it is what it is. I'm not really wasting any time here by shooting Winston because I'm still listening to scouting information from my team, looking for an opportunity. Yeah, I'm just trying to find a target. Here, Doom tries to punch me, so I jump up into the air to dodge it. Most people don't really understand how useful jumping up like this is. It gives me so much information because I can see exactly where everyone is, and I can choose between landing on the low ground or high ground. If I feel like I'm gonna die when I land on the low ground, then I can just land onto the high ground, and then I can choose to drop whenever I want. And here, I try to focus Doomfist because he's the most threatening hero on their team, but there's no way that we win this fight with everyone dead except me and the Diva. So this one's just gonna be a lost fight here. Right now, we don't really have any intel on where the squishy targets are playing, so this is another great opportunity to use jump for space. I leap onto the high ground to draw attention and to find out where the supports are playing, and then once I get my leap cooldown back, then we can set up a proper dive on their backline. See, same thing as before. Their Diva shifted onto me, the Monkey's up here, Lucia's up here, Ana's up here. So basically again, I'm pulling the attention of 4 people just for doing this. And all while this is happening, this is 4 people not looking at the rest of my team. And it's really unfortunate that Doom just comes out of nowhere and punches me before I manage to get my ultimate. And my team's actually going to take advantage of that space that I made and probably win the fight off this. So even though I died super early, I managed to make enough space for my team to actually win the fight. In hindsight though, I should have stayed on the high ground so that Doom just can't get onto me that easily. But I really didn't know where he was in the moment in the game. And now that we won that fight, this is going to be the last fight on the entire map. Soon goes down super early on the Tracer. And at this point, we're down 1. At this point, it's more likely that I should go for a high risk, high reward play. So in this case, what I'd like to do ideally is I would wait for their monkey to jump in, or I'd wait for somebody to commit, and then I'll jump all the way into their backline and just distract them, while my team takes the advantageous fight on the point. That's what I'd like to do here. So I'm looking for a target right now, waiting for something to happen, and I just get punched by the Doom. This was just really bad for me. I tried to use my shift ability before Primal so that I can get a free cooldown, but I underestimated the damage of a Nano Doofus. And here I use Primal to get back to the fight as fast as possible. If I don't Primal here in the spawn, then my whole team's going to be dead by the time that I arrive on the point. I tried to boop Ana off the map, but I couldn't. And now that this beat comes out from Lucio, my focus goes from getting kills to just staying alive, at least while the sound barrier goes away. And one of the best ways to do that is by jumping into the air. On top of that, there's a lot of benefits about jumping into air like this, like we talked about a few times here. Too bad that wasn't enough to win the fight. If I would have gotten Primal off before dying in the second to last fight, there's actually a really good chance that we would have taken this map. That being said, we did do a great job overall of setting up dives for the past 2 maps. Hopefully this video helped you understand when, why, and how to dive the backline.
Game Leap is the proven way to help you reach your desired rank fast. Our website, GameLeap.com, is the most comprehensive library of pro player guides available. You'll find dozens of in-depth courses that are carefully crafted by players in the top 500 bracket so you can start winning a lot more of your games. Get your membership today at 25% off. It costs about the same as a Twitch sub, so you can get much more value in return. We're so confident in our product that if you don't like it, we're happy to issue a full refund. So get your membership today by clicking right here. See you on the inside.